So hello, everybody. My name, for those of you who don't know me, is Maria Baler, and I'm a partner at Samuel Sayward and Baler in Dedham, Massachusetts, where we practice in the areas of estate planning, elder law, and estate and trust administration. And thank you for joining us for our latest edition of Smart Counsel, our quarterly webinar series. We do this about once a quarter. And tonight's webinar is a really exciting topic as far as I'm concerned. We're going to explore the resources that are available in the community. There are so many valuable resources that we all have available to us through our cities and towns and through our counties and our state that we're really, I don't think, all that familiar with. So I've assembled like a dream team of rock stars here to tell you about the resources that are out there and the variety of them and how you can access them. And each of them is going to speak in turn, and you can ask questions as we go along by typing your questions into the Q&A or into the chat, whatever you have access to at the bottom of your screen there. And we will, the panelists have said they'll take questions as they talk. So if you can get your question in there quick enough, we can ask it as they go along. Otherwise, we'll have time at the end for questions as well. So let me tell you who our speakers are. First, we'll have Cheryl Leary, who's the Director of Planning and Community Development for HESCO, which is the local aging service access point and area agency on aging for Southern Norfolk County. And Cheryl can tell you more about HESCO and what it is and what it does. Then we have TJ Tedeschi, who's a veteran of the Marine Corps and the Veteran Service Officer for the towns of Needham, Wayland, Wellesley, Weston, and Westwood. So he's got his hands full. So TJ is going to tell you about benefits that are out there and available to the veterans in our communities. And finally, we have Lena Arena DeRosa, the Director of the Westwood Council on Aging, someone I've been privileged to work with for many years, educating local seniors on legal issues. Lena is a tremendous advocate for the seniors in her community, and she's going to tell us more about the Westwood Council on Aging services and services that I assume are, similar services are available at councils on aging all over the state. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to let Cheryl share her screen and take you through her presentation.
And I'll just ask if you're starting to see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so as Maria said, thank you, Maria, so much for inviting us. And my name is Cheryl Leary, and I'm from HESCO. So I'm just gonna walk through HESCO. HESCO is an aging service access point and an area agency on aging. The Aging Service Access Point designation means that we receive state-funded, we have state-funded programs, receive funding through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. And then the Area Agency on Aging is a designation from the federal government. So that means we also receive funding through the Administration for Community Living. We cover 12 towns in South Norfolk County. So the map on the screen has the 12 towns that we cover. We are also part of the Metro West Aging and Disability Resource Consortium, which is really just a partnership between the agencies in the state that serve older adults with the agencies in the state that serve younger individuals living with disabilities. And we try to make sure that there's sort of no wrong door for people to enter into the service system. And I always get asked, what does HESCO stand for? And so it stands for Health and Social Services Consortium. If you do not live in the HESCO service area, you can call Mass Options. Easy way to remember that number, 1-800-AGE-INFO, or go on to massoptions.org, and you can find the Aging Service Access Point or the Area Agency on Aging in your town, every city and town in Massachusetts has a designated ASAP or Aging Service Access Point and AAA or Area Agency on Aging. Many of them, like HESCO, the two service areas that we serve are the same towns. There are 3 freestanding area agencies on aging in the state. Those are in Boston, out in Worcester, and in Brockton. So sometimes services are set up a little bit differently in those cities. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about were sort of these basic programs are some of our most frequently accessed programs. They are by far not our only programs, but I certainly just wanted to cover these a little bit around, talk about eligibility and what kind of services are available. And really the programs, all of these programs, as I mentioned, if they're not available through HESCO because you don't live in our 12 towns, they are available through other providers in the state. So first I'll start with our home care services. So home care provides in-home services for older adults, and our definition of that is age 60 and over. And they're designed to help people live independently and safely at home. And the kinds of services we offer are things such as personal care, housework, things like laundry, grocery shopping, meal support, medication management systems, personal emergency response systems, which are those buttons that you can push to call for help if you've fallen and you can't get up. Access to adult day health programs is another service that we can provide, which provide respite for caregivers in particular. So we have a pretty vast array of actually different types of services and supports available. The way you find out if you're eligible for home care is to have HESCO do an assessment in your home. It is a state-funded program, so we do have to come out and determine eligibility according to the state guidelines. And that eligibility is really based on how much help people need with their activities of daily living. So we'll walk through all of the tasks that it takes to, get up in the morning, get dressed, get food, manage your household. We'll walk through all of those different tasks and see what kind of help you need and determine if you're eligible. If you are enrolled in the program, you would have a care manager or a geriatric services support coordinator from HESCO who assists with the scheduling and the managing of services. The cost of the services is determined on a sliding fee scale, and that scale is based on the income of the individual receiving care. If that person is married, we would also consider the spouse's income as well. So really what that means is that we might have some people that don't pay anything for their services, or they may have what we call a voluntary copayment because they have a very low income. Or we may have people who have a more moderate income who are on a fixed copayment of services. So for example, no matter what their services cost, they might pay HESCO a fixed amount of $52 every month for their services. And then we have people in a higher income bracket that will pay a percentage of the cost of services to HESCO as their copayment. So if we set up a service plan for them that costs $300 per month, they would pay HESCO $150 or 50% of the cost of their services as one example. And that percentage might go from range anywhere from 50% up to 100% for people in the higher income brackets. There is no income cap. So people of any and all incomes can be eligible for home care services. What the income does is simply determine how much somebody would pay for those services. And it might seem a little strange that if somebody were in the higher income categories and would be paying 100%, we certainly get asked, why would I use HESCO? Why wouldn't I just go in the private market and contract with an agency myself to provide private in-home services? And certainly I can understand that. There are a couple of benefits to using a HESCO in this circumstance. One being that the cost of your service plan are the negotiated rates that we've negotiated with the vendors. So they're usually, our hourly rates are cheaper than generally what you would get in the private market. So there's some value there. In addition, you would have a care manager assigned for you, and we don't bill for care management services. That's just built into the program. So you do have sort of that contact person who can help you with coordination, scheduling, and would come out and be doing assessments to see how you're doing every few months. So there are still benefits to using HESCO, even if you are in those higher income categories.
Cheryl,
Next, I was gonna.
before you move on from that,
Sure.
I have a question. Nobody else does, but I do. How long does it take to get an assessment? You know, if I were to call you and say, I think I need some services, how long does that whole process take before the help can actually start?
Sure. So that's a very good question. So our mandate is that we need to do an assessment after a referral is made. We have to go out and do that in-home assessment within 5 business days to determine eligibility. The other part of your question is till when services can start. And that's a bigger question. Actually, part of our mandate is to try and make sure at least some of the services in the service plan have started within 2 weeks. And for some services, that is very possible. Something like Meals on Wheels, we can set up right away. Something like a shopping service or a laundry service, we could set up easily. A personal emergency response system can get in pretty quickly. We do have a crisis right now in our state of direct care professionals. So other in-home services could take a considerable amount of time to set up, because we do have a very long list of people who have been assessed and determined eligible for care, but are waiting for availability. And so, you know, the question of how soon can we get you assessed, that's pretty quick. We've been able to actually meet that 5-day turnaround mandate recently at HESCO. The question of how long does it take for services to start can be a little bit varied.
Okay. And the care management services are terrific, because those are not cheap to obtain if you're going to pay for them privately. So does that mean if you set someone up with home care and they have a regular home care person coming to help them, and that person is sick or has to be out for some extended period of time, that the care manager would get a replacement and coordinate that whole situation?
Right. Your care manager is your person who's really working with the vendor directly. You don't have to be kind of trying to figure out those schedules or calling that vendor. You would have that care manager who's able to act on your behalf and do that work directly with the vendor. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so next I wanted to just mention protective services. Protective services happens when we intervene in situations where there's self-neglect, abuse, exploitation, or caregiver neglect, and it's impacting an older adult over the age of 60 and putting them at risk. We would essentially receive a report and determine if it's either screened in or screened out. And if it's screened in, we would complete an investigation to determine if the allegations should be substantiated. And if they are substantiated, we would have a protective service worker who will work with the older adult to develop a service plan to try and reduce their risk and work to prevent any type of reoccurrence of the abuse. And at this point, when we're service planning, we very often will be connecting with other community-based providers and or working on seeking nursing facility care, or any other type of care that might be more appropriate if community-based care is no longer sustainable. So we're working with collaboratively with many other organizations and agencies to try to make sure that we're really mitigating any risk for that abuse or neglect to happen again. There is a statewide number to report protective services concerns. It's right here on the screen, 1-800-922-2275. It's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also go online to report. And we really do ask people to make sure that if they are even just a little bit concerned, to make a report. We do have staff who are very trained in reviewing reports and determining whether they should be screened in. So we really just ask you to go ahead and make a call. If you are concerned and you're not really sure if what you see that's happening rises to the level of abuse, you can also just call HESCO directly and just do an informal consultation with our protective services director or any of our protective services supervisors, and they will just do an informal consultation with you and let you know if they feel that you should make that formal report, or if there are other ideas or options that might work in the situation. Next, I'll move on to our nutrition program, Meals on Wheels, which is probably one of our most recognizable services. Meals on Wheels is actually a national program. It is one of our federally funded services. So what happens with Meals on Wheels is we have a hot meal delivery Monday through Friday over the noon hour. The meal is actually delivered by volunteers. We have some wonderful dedicated volunteers. And the wonderful thing as well about this program is that when the volunteer is out delivering that meal, they do a safety check, a little bit of a well-being check. It's just somebody who's laying eyes on the individual. And part of that volunteer training is that if they do see anything that they're concerned about or that doesn't quite seem right, or if somebody doesn't answer the door for the meal, they have to report it back, and it gets back to HESCO, and we have our care management staff get on the phone and try and figure out what's happening. This is a program that has saved lives, because we have had times when people did not answer their door and the volunteer reported that. We couldn't locate them, so we send the police out, and we have found them on the floor. And truly, we have saved lives with this program. To be eligible for this program, you have to be age 60 and over and considered homebound, which means that generally most of the time you can't get out of your home, or especially can't get out of your home to attend a meal site program. So if you get out just to kind of go to the doctor's or to go to church on Sunday, or just minimally like that, you can still be considered homebound for this program. And you also have to just require assistance with either meal preparation or have a food insecurity issue or a need for nutrition support. We have our meal sites out in various community locations. So in Westwood, we have Lena here that's going to talk about us today, and she is at the Westwood Council on Aging, which is where one of our meal sites are, and they do a wonderful job up there and have wonderful volunteers at the Council on Aging in Westwood delivering those meals for us. It's really a great program, and if there is any need for nutrition support, I definitely encourage looking into this program. One thing as well about the Meals on Wheels, I'll flip back to that, is there's no cost for the program. Because the funding for it comes down through our federal funding. We actually don't have an income requirement, so there's no income requirement and there's no cost attached to the program. What we do ask is if somebody is able to make a voluntary and confidential donation of $3 per meal, we would gladly accept that, and we would put that money right back into the Meals on Wheels program. So it really is something that certainly if you can't afford that $3 donation, it doesn't matter, you would still get your meal. So it really is a program for everyone.
How many meals do you deliver on a given day, Cheryl?
So we have 12 communities, and we deliver between 650 and 700 meals every day. Oh. And they're all delivered by volunteers as well. So we have generally between 400 and 500 volunteers out there delivering for us. And so it's a big program. It was a program that prior to COVID, we tended to deliver about 400 meals per day. And we had a dramatic increase during COVID, and actually it's really not decreased since COVID. So we did determine that there is a lot of food insecurity for the older adults in our service area.
Great service.
Thank you. So next I'll talk about options counseling. This program is an informational counseling program. It's open to anyone age 18 and over, anyone who really needs to get care and support, and it's a long-term situation. And what can happen is the options counselor can come out and meet with the individual, review their personal goals, their functional capacity, what kind of supports they have available to them, and also talk to them about the cost of care. So it's really somebody that can just kind of sit down and review options, just like the name says, options counseling. They'll kind of put together a plan and kind of hand that plan over to the person, kind of give them what they need to be able to connect and implement the plan, but it is not case management. It is sort of just really helping them kind of create the plan and sort of make those initial contacts, and that's typically the end of the program after that. It is a program that's available at no cost, and it is something that is actually one of the few programs offered by the Aging Service Access Points across the state that's really open to people age 18 and over. So it's not just for older adults. Younger individuals living with disability as well can access this program. And then I'll talk next about the SHINE program. Again, this is another program that Lena from the Westwood COA knows well, because this is a program, it's an informational counseling program, and we have SHINE counselors out at different community sites, the Westwood Council on Aging being one of them. SHINE stands for Serving Health Insurance Needs of Everyone. It offers free, unbiased Medicare health insurance counseling, and it really helps people find the plan that's right for them, whether that's a Medicare Advantage plan, whether it's what is their wraparound plan for Medicare, their supplemental insurance, what's the right Medicare Part D plan for them, because really people have very specific and individual needs, so it should be a decision that is that people put a lot of thought and effort into, and it's also very confusing. So having the guidance of a SHINE counselor is really, really helpful. And we're actually headed into what's called open enrollment, which occurs every year from October 15th to December 7th. And that's the time of year when people who are enrolled in Medicare, this is when they can make changes in their plans. It's particularly important to really check in on your Medicare Part D plan every year. The insurers will change their formularies from year to year in terms of what medications they will cover. And so it's important for seniors to make sure that they're checking in and looking at and providing information to somebody like a SHINE counselor about what medications they take, to really make sure to determine that their Part D insurance is the best one for them in the upcoming year. So they do these this open enrollment until December 7th, and then the changes go into effect as of January 1st. So we have a dedicated SHINE counselor for each HESCO community, and they're usually out at the Councils on Aging. And they book out appointments during open enrollment as well as throughout the entire year. And so it's something that I definitely encourage, if you have any questions, to reach out to your Council on Aging. This is also one of those programs that has somewhat different boundaries than the typical 12 HESCO towns that I've been talking about. We actually serve 22 towns. In our SHINE program. We move all the way out through the South Shore area. And SHINE programs across the state are not always held within aging service access points like HESCO. There are other community-based organizations that have the state SHINE contracts. So if you're not in one of the HESCO towns or living in the South Shore area, you can go onto shinema.org, or again, call that 1-800-AGE-INFO to find the right Shine program for you. The shinema.org also has some good information, and right now it's really good if you are an individual with a lower to moderate income. You should really be exploring in the state of Massachusetts whether you're eligible for one of the buy-in programs, which could potentially save you a considerable amount of money on the cost of your Medicare supplemental as well as your drug costs. So I encourage you to look into that, and that information is available on that shinema.org and through the Shine program. All right, and family caregiver support. This is a program near and dear to my heart because, caregivers are out there doing so much work to really help individuals live independently and live the way that they want and improve their quality of life. And caregivers are certainly individuals that need a lot of support to do that. So the Family Caregiver Support Program offers informational counseling to family caregivers of older adults, those caring for an adult with disability, or a grandparent raising a grandchild. And really this program provides a caregiver specialist who would sit down and go over the situation with the family caregiver and help them develop an action plan with the goal of finding relief from the stresses of caregiving. It's a very individualized action plan because really what stresses one caregiver may not be what stresses another caregiver. So it's really up to the caregiver to work with our caregiver specialist to talk about what it is that they need relief from. And that caregiver specialist will work to connect them with different services and supports to make things a little bit better, ease their stress a little bit. There is no cost for this service. And what's somewhat unique in this program as well is the way the eligibility works. The person, the care recipient, can be a resident of the HESCO service area, or the caregiver can be a resident of the HESCO service area. Only one person in that relationship has to live in the HESCO service area. So it's really something that we might have caregivers from other states or from another part of the state whose family member resides in our territory, and we're working with those caregivers, or vice versa. So it's a flexible and fluid program. And I think it's a really important service. And one thing that I always like to say to emphasize how important this is with this program, it's the one time sort of in our network of services and supports where the caregiver is the client and they're the focus, and the attention is put onto the caregiver to tell us what they need. In all other points of contact, they're usually, assessing that older adult or assessing that family member for what they need. And this is the time that we really get to support those caregivers who are doing incredible things out there. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about clinical assessment and eligibility. This isn't a program I talk about too much when I go out, but I wanted to mention it here because this is one program where the order of things becomes very important. The nurses at HESCO and other aging service access points in particular, we all do assessments for specific Mass Health programs. One of those being if Mass Health is going to pay for a nursing home or long-term care. It's our nurses that do that clinical assessment to determine if people meet the Mass Health eligibility for that level of care. And so I wanted to talk about for a quick second that if that decision is made for either long-term care in a facility, or if somebody's going to pursue what's called the frail elder waiver for community-based care, and that's a waiver where we allow expanded income access for people who need a high level of care. they can get onto Mass Health and otherwise they may not have been income eligible for Mass Health. Our nurses have to do those clinical eligibility assessments. So the first step, though, is to get the Mass Health application completed. And once the Mass Health application is completed, then our nurses should be alerted that it's been actually submitted to Mass Health. And for those programs, either whether you're going into a facility or you're seeking the frail elder waiver, you need both the Mass Health application as well as what's called the long-term care supplement application. Once those are submitted to Mass Health, then our nurses can come out and do that clinical assessment for eligibility. If we send in an approval for clinical eligibility, but there's no Mass Health application on record with Mass Health, they'll bounce out our assessment and we'd have to do it all over again once they finally get that application. And so that's why I mention it here. It's just one of those times when the order of documentation becomes really important for the system. So I just bring that up, and if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer more questions about that. But it's just something to know that our nurses would be involved in that process, even if it's somebody that's seeking a nursing home, as opposed to community care. Also, if somebody is seeking Mass Health payment for an adult day health program, so regardless of whether HESCO is involved with that consumer, if they want to go to an adult day health program under Mass Health, also our nurses would need to be involved to do that assessment for eligibility.
Do you help people complete the Mass Health applications, Cheryl?
So the SHINE program does, they do often help people complete the Mass Health application. And for right now, for the next year, HESCO has what's called the Benefit Support Specialist. And actually, this is a program being funded through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, and all of the aging service access points in the state have somebody designated as a benefit support specialist who can assist with Mass Health applications. And this is part of the an initiative from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs to really make sure that nobody loses Mass Health as we're going through this end of the public health emergency, and people that perhaps did not have to have their renewals or redeterminations during the COVID emergencies now suddenly might have to submit paperwork, and it's been a couple of years and they might have difficulty with that process. So all of us have an individual designated now to be able to support that, both that redetermination process as well as any new applications.
Got it. So if someone is interested in community Mass Health or even long-term care Mass Health, and they come to the SHINE person or this benefit support person, they'll be able to counsel them on whether they're eligible or not before they fill out the application.
And definitely. And even if the SHINE counselor out at the councils on aging sites, they work very closely with the SHINE director in our office. And, sometimes those decisions around eligibility, they're tough to really know exactly how to guide somebody through the system. And everybody really works together in that SHINE department to make sure they're giving good information to individuals and guiding them through that process. And then our benefit support specialist is also what's called a certified application counselor. And she can do applications directly online to Mass Health. She can log in, see what the status of an application is. So it's really a great service.
Yeah, that is great.
And then I just put up the information and referral department is really where you would is the starting point. For any of these programs, if you wanted to make a referral, you can call or you can use our email info@hesco.org. And it really kind of all starts with information and referral. They'll kind of guide you along the system and give you the information. And I also will share my contact information as well. And certainly if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
So we have one question so far, Cheryl.
Mhm.
Someone is asking, if you have long-term care insurance, can they still, use your services, and how would that work in terms of the payment?
Yes, so absolutely, that certainly there are many circumstances when the co-payments that individuals pay us actually are reimbursed to people through their long-term care insurance policies. That's typically how those policies work, is that the individual pays upfront and then they get reimbursed by the insurance policy. And what we'll do is provide the documentation backup that's needed for them. We don't bill the insurances usually directly. What we'll do is provide the documentation so the person can submit that.
Got it. Okay, I don't see any other questions at the moment.
Okay.
So thank you, Cheryl. That was terrific information.
Okay.
And as always, I learned something, more than one thing, actually. I guess one other question I had was, do you get approached by family members, to help their parent or their neighbor? It doesn't have to be the person who needs the help themselves that's contacting you, I assume.
Absolutely. Very often our referral sources are family members. We would have to do an assessment in the home. So the person has to be agreeable to having that assessment and having us come in and do that. So we do eventually have to talk to them in the process. But certainly the majority of our referral sources come through family members, and then the hospital, and like visiting nurses and other community medical providers.
And how do you handle someone who's reluctant to accept care? Because that is a big issue that we all hear about, right?
So that's a really big issue, and it all depends on sort of the scale of the reluctance. If the scale of the reluctance is to the point where a person's at risk, that might become a protective services report. It might be a self-neglect issue. But if it's a reluctance that just is sort of, I'm not sure I'm ready yet, I'm not sure I'm there yet, we're always here. We can always come out and do an assessment. You don't have to accept this right away. Sometimes we are planting seeds, but I also think it's sometimes helpful to think about first of all, to think about how things are for you on your worst day, right? And if we can prevent those worst days from happening, maybe that's a good way to view it. And then also to look at what can be some of the more minimal things that you are ready to accept. Perhaps what you're ready to accept is, having a laundry service, emergency response system, and a meal. And, we don't have to get into showering yet. We don't have to get into the personal care side of things. That feels a little more invasive, but maybe those things would be acceptable. So it's a different approach for everyone, because it really kind of depends on their situation and, what's the root of the reluctance. But I will say that I do think we have staff very well trained in sort of how to sort of suss through those different situations.
Yeah, it's definitely a skill and an important one. So thank you. Okay. So TJ, you're up. Tell us everything we need to know about veterans services.
Great. So my name is TJ Tedeschi. I'm a 21-year Marine, retired major, and I've been doing this job since January. So I'm going to share with you exactly what I know. And so my population, when I first came on, having 5 towns really is the most in Massachusetts. I have the West Suburban Veterans District, comprised of those 5 towns. I went to the town clerks, asked if I could have a list of every single veteran, not knowing how many I had. It appears that I have 2,500.
Wow.
And what surprised me of those 2,500 veterans amongst the 5 towns, I broke them down by decades. born in the 20s, 30s, 40s. And of the 30s, I have 667 veterans born in the 30s and 824 veterans born in the 40s. So 1,491 veterans out of my 2,500, which is considerable. So that really told me exactly what I need to pay attention to. Now, what do I do? What do I do? I have my primary goal is outreach, because people don't know what they don't know. Exactly why I'm here this evening.
Yeah.
So with that, there are 4 types of veterans. You have disabled veterans, you have separated veterans that did their service and got out, you have war or campaign veterans, and then you have those that have an armed forces service medal, and that's your deployed veteran. So that's primarily your 4 groups of veterans. With that, I work with the elderly. I work with transitioning young veterans, not so much in this position right now with these towns. I try to get people jobs. We work with education, post 9/11 GI Bill, those sorts of things, compensation, service-connected disabilities, veteran pensions. DIC is a big one as well. That's your indemnity compensation. So your dependent indemnity compensation. And what that is if you have a service-connected spouse that passes away and you've been with that person for 15 years, had a child with that person, you will receive a payment the remainder of your life. I work with burial. I work with healthcare, whether that's TRICARE, CHAMP VA, with the VA hospitals. I work with nursing homes. I work with dental. I work with vet centers. And the vet centers, I think there's a dozen or so in the state, and that's for combat or
Oh, TJ froze on us.
DJ, we've lost you.
Hopefully he'll come back.
Is he looking to get back on?
I hope so. Let's wait a minute and see if he makes his way back.
Okay.
Oh, he's going to come back.
No, that's good that he went off and he'll come back on.
Yeah. Thanks for your patience, everybody. I don't think it's not stormy out, so I assume we didn't lose power or anything like that.
I'll need to start and then I'll stop.
Yeah, why don't we get Lena going in the meantime, and hopefully
If he jumps back on, I'll stop talking. It's cool.
Oh, here he comes.
Oh, there he is.
Okay. He's
We
back.
lost you.
I don't know exactly what happened there, but with the federal hiring, corrections of records, and as I spoke about the character of discharge, you know, don't ask, don't tell, those sorts of things that are societal. I do holidays, Memorial Days, and Veterans Days. But with that, primarily with this group that we're speaking about, I do aid in attendance and I do homebound. Eligibility factors of that. These people that are unable to leave their house. I do claims for those veterans that were wounded or were injured just during training. And lastly, I do what's called for Chapter 115. Massachusetts is the only state in the union that has basically a safety net for veterans. I can write a check within a week, essentially, to get that person housing, shelter, food, whatever. In my 5 towns, I only have 12 people on that. So my area of the state is a little bit different than most people's. What is a good factor about being a VSO is we are all tied together through chat pages. So I can go out and ask any question, all VSOs can, and they can receive answers real time, because there's a lot of changes that happen within the government and within these rules. Look at the PACT Act, for instance, that affects your Vietnam, your Korea, your global war and terrorism veterans, and so that's
Very good. Can you talk a little more about the aid and attendance benefit? Because that's a really great benefit that I don't feel like people know about.
Sure. So in order to get aid and attendance, you go back 3 years to see if you're even eligible. Your husband or your spouse has to be wartime. You compile a package, it goes to the VA. It's very intensive package, and it takes about 90 to 120 days to get. So that's where a caregiver will come into your home and stay with you throughout the day to ensure that your needs are met.
And that's something that's available to spouses of veterans as well as to veterans themselves?
To spouses, exactly.
Okay.
Yep, to spouses as well.
Got it. Okay. Do you help people fill out those applications?
We do. We do. Within my job, I do a lot of home visits to sit with veteran spouses, the veterans and their spouses. When a veteran passes, still maintain contact with that spouse, because aid and attendance or homebound will be one of those things that I want to ensure is available to them in the coming years if it's necessary.
That's great. So when you went through all the different types of veterans, is someone who served in the National Guard considered a veteran for your purposes?
If they deployed.
Okay. And I know some benefits are available to only veterans who were serving during an active period of wartime versus not.
Right.
Right.
So eligibility is all over the table. If you have a Purple Heart, 90 days to 24 months, if it was during wartime. So there's different criteria for each program that I mentioned that has to be met.
So if someone just comes to you and says, you know, my father's a veteran and he's home and he needs help with, you know, some of the things that Cheryl was talking about before, you can help them figure out which programs they might qualify for.
So the first question I ask is, does that veteran have a DD-214? And that's essentially your discharge papers, and every service member gets them when they leave the service. That DD-214, the Department of Defense DD-214, is going to list all the qualifications and everywhere that veteran has been in wartime. So, and that's really going to tell us. The problem is, oftentimes that DD-214 is missing. You know, through the years, things happen. So that it's usually about 4 to 5 months to get a new one from the government. Yeah,
and that's important. Even for burial, right? If you want to be buried in a veteran cemetery, you need that.
That's right. Yes. And with burial, a common question I've been getting since I started was, can I reserve a space? Can I reserve a plot? And no, you can't. You know, but they're still available. And I just had a question today actually on that.
Yeah, that's a great, lovely benefit for veterans. The cemeteries are wonderful, and they do a really nice service for the veterans who are buried there.
Right.
I've been involved in a couple of those, so yeah. Well, thank you, TJ. That's all really great information. And yeah, there are a lot of veterans out there who I think could benefit from these benefits. So just like Cheryl and Lena, there's people like you in all the cities and towns, right?
All the cities and towns. I just happen to have 5 towns. I would say if you know a veteran, or if you are a veteran, get to know your veteran service officer. It's a wealth of information. Things change constantly, and they're always, they want to know you. They want to know you in the best of times before it's the worst of times.
Mm-hmm.
You want that rapport, and so along with that, though, you also have veteran service agents that can be found at your American Legion or your Veterans of Foreign Wars. So there's redundancy throughout the state of people that do this job. So there's help out there, there's information out there, and there's definitely resources.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to reach their town's veteran service officer, would it be through the town hall? Is that how they would get to you?
It would
Okay.
be. So I'm in each town 1 day a week. So I'm in one town 4 times a month. Where I primarily sit is at the COAs, at the senior center with people like Lena, because that's my clientele.
Right, true. Okay, very good. Thank you, TJ.
Well,
I don't see any questions for you, but that's great information, and people can take it back to the veterans they know, and hopefully connect them with someone like you when they need something. Okay, Lena, let's talk about what the Council on Aging does. I'm going to share my screen. And
Not yet. So first, let me just talk for a minute, and then we'll share
okay.
the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for having me. It's really
Yeah.
great. I work very closely with Maria. She does wonderful free programs at our center, and thank you. I work very closely with Cheryl. We do a lot together, and I work very closely with TJ. But that's what Council on Agings are. We're kind of the conduit where everybody kind of has a specialty, but people come to us to find out how to go to Cheryl, how to go to TJ, who you are, Maria. They come to us because we kind of have that information. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have been a director for almost 17 years. Prior to that, my whole career has been elder affairs. I think I'm passionate about elders, and I think my staff is passionate about elders. I would say all the people I work with, Cheryl, TJ, you, Maria, that's what we care about. I mean, I think and I think it's a gift that we get to work with these people. At the Westwood Council on Aging, or the Senior Center, whichever way you want to call it, on average, we do 3,000 seniors every month, in and out. I like to say we have 3 different groups. We have our 60 to 70-year-olds, and they are the people who want exercise class. They want to go to Quebec. They want to do things. And I think it's great. And we provide that. And then we have our 70 to 80 group, and they're the ones that are starting to talk to Shine. They're the ones that are starting to talk to TJ. They're the ones that are starting to worry a little bit about aging. They're talking to you, Maria, because they want to make sure they have their legal responsibilities in order. And then we have our 80 and above. And that, for a lot of that, it's van transportation, it's Meals on Wheels, it's medical management, it's all of that. So to me, the center is where we bring everyone together and explain to them where they can go to get the information they need. A lot of times we can provide it, but if we can't, we have wonderful groups of people like Cheryl and TJ and you who we work with and we partner. I think the best senior centers are the ones that do the most partnerships, because it's through those partnerships. None of us can know everything, but everybody knows a little. And if we can help everybody and keep everyone connected to those people, we're great. In Westwood, we have myself, who's a director. We have a director of operations. We have an outreach counselor. We have 3 van drivers and 16 regular instructors. And I like to say in Westwood, we do everything from A to Y, from art to yoga. We don't do Z because Zumba just never made it in Westwood, so we don't do Zumba. But probably the most important thing I want to talk about, and then we can start talking about my newsletter, is that as you age, and people really need to hear about this, you need to stay connected. That's probably the most important thing anybody needs to do. So whether you come to the senior center or you walk with your neighbor or whatever works for you, or you go to Dunkin' Donuts and have coffee every morning with someone, you need to stay connected and you need to put the remote down. We worry a lot about people. Cheryl's laughing, TJ's laughing, Maria's laughing, because we all know that's really what the big thing is. So my job is to create programming that encourages people to put the remote down and come into the center. And remember, when you do retire, and some of you, I don't know who's watching this, but if you're thinking of retiring, please have a plan. First of all, make sure your legal responsibilities are up to date, and make sure you have a plan of what do you want to do every day. You know, you really need a plan. And what we find a lot of times, people retire and think, oh, I'm just going to hang out. After about 6 weeks, they're so bored, it's not funny. So you need to have a plan. And the senior center is one of those places that you can create a plan with. So now we'll go through what I do every day. So you want to put it up?
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria, by the way. And Maria, thank you for putting this together
Oh,
for
yeah.
us.
You're welcome.
So in Westwood, as in most COAs, I'm going to talk about Westwood, but I have to say I work with, like Cheryl will tell you, I work with a consortium of other senior centers from Dedham to, I should turn on the light here because I think it's going to get dark. Is that better? No, I'm not. Right. What I do, most other senior centers do. So it's not just about me, it's about what senior centers do, but I'll focus on what we do in Westwood. But if you live in other communities, go online and check out their newsletters. And please, the thing that we hear all the time is, I'm too young to go to the senior center. Let me tell you something. Tonight, normally I'd be at yoga right now, and it cost me $15. You can come to Westwood and do the exact same yoga class for $3. Why you wouldn't do that is beyond me. So when you're eligible to come to the senior center, you're going to get the same programs. So please, you're not too young. You need to remember, and we do have a lot of young seniors, 60, 65, 68, who use our center. All right, next slide. So most of us who are directors have this kind of newsletter. And for us, the first page is always, for me in Westwood, is sort of a welcome. This is what we're doing for the next 2 months. We do ours every other month. And one of the things I want to talk about the front page is we're very blessed in Westwood. We partner with a lot of people. And you'll see on the left-hand side, it'll say special thanks to whoever, like Fox Hill Village or Beth Israel Deaconess. The way we're able to keep all of our programs really inexpensive is that we get a lot of grants. Cheryl does a lot of grant writing. I do a lot of grant writing. We all do a lot of grant writing because there's always more in resources that we need than we actually have. So we are very blessed that we have lots of partnerships out there in the community that help us underwrite our programs. All right, next page. So you'll see that our outreach counselor in Westwood, it's Karen. We always have a corner for her, and she will talk about what you need to know this month. And every other month she does something. So right now, as Cheryl was talking about earlier, there's open enrollment. So right now she put in a piece so people can start thinking about, if you are retiring, or if you have already retired, but perhaps your income has changed or your medical bills have changed or whatever, open enrollment is when you should come to us and make an appointment with Shine. Now, we're also very lucky because Cheryl and her group now have someone who specializes in mass health. And let me tell you something, mass health is an animal on its own. It's a gorilla. And you really, really need to understand mass health in order to be able to access it. And because we have a wonderful Shine person, Cheryl knows him. His name is Mitch. But every single COA has a Shine counselor, and they've been trained to explain to you exactly what you need to do. And they won't tell you what you should do. They'll give you your options. And they're not selling you anything. These are volunteers who just want to make sure you understand what your options are. And in Westwood, we also partner with HESCO, and we have a nutritionist. And I know, Cheryl, the nutritionist basically goes to every COA. Am I correct on that one?
Every COA that has requested, yes, and the nutritionist would also do home visits if they don't have appointments at the COA.
So, and Cheryl and TJ, I'm going to be talking with you guys as we go through this. So if you know, you don't have to go to a specialist, you don't have to go to your doctor, you can come to us. Kelsey is amazing, and she's a nutritionist, and she can help you figure out, like, maybe if you're struggling with something, what you can do that'll make your life better and make your body better. We work with a public health nurse. She does blood pressure clinic once a week, and she also does her own piece in our newsletter. If you go down, you'll see TJ's piece. We work very closely with our VSO officer, which is TJ. And he comes in every Monday. We do ask, because he's so busy, and I know how busy you are, TJ, is that you call us in advance and make an appointment. You can call him. He's great. He gives out his cell phone number. God love you. Good for you. And he really does. And I'll tell you something. We have been struggling before TJ, and I really have to give a shout out to you, with trying. What we found was a lot of veterans were kind of like not really wanting to get involved, but TJ has really reached out and made it more comfortable for them to come to the center and find out what benefits they have coming. And if you're not sure, you should definitely come and make an appointment with TJ, because he will tell you, yeah, you can do this, or no, that's not going to be for you. All right, next slide. Now, the other thing we do at the senior center, which again, Cheryl, you talked about, was a congregate meal, as well as Meals on Wheels. This is the one right in the middle. So if you know of someone who could use a meal, and I agreed with you, Cheryl, sometimes it's not, I'm Italian, it's always about the food, but sometimes it's really not about the food. Our volunteers are spectacular. In Westwood, we do between 40 and 45 homebound meals every single day. HESCO uses us, but we actually are grateful for them. And they gave us a kitchen manager, and Elaine's amazing. And it's not just the meal, it's that knock on the door. It's someone checking in on you. So, that's really important. The other thing most COAs do, if you go down just a little bit, Maria, you'll see we do transportation. Every senior center does transportation. For if you no longer drive, or if you're afraid to drive, especially in the winter, we're in New England, please. There are days the roads are really icy, and you're just not comfortable getting in your car anymore. We take you to your local medical appointments. We take you to the grocery store. We do in Westwood, we ask for 2 days in advance, so we know how many drivers we need. But for the most part, that's, and it's $4. I mean, with the cost of gas, that's nothing. And we always say, if you need a ride, let us know. We can get you there. We do within a 10-mile radius. But if it's longer than that, our outreach counselor can get you involved and get you connected with the state program, which is, it's not coming to me. Cheryl, what's the state program?
The ride.
The ride. So thank you, Cheryl. So we can connect you with the ride. Karen, our outreach counselor, can help you do the application. And then you can get the ride. So if it's out of our catch basin, you can still go to the doctor that you want. Now, earlier I said we do different groups. You'll see, if you just go up a little bit, we do walking tours in North End. We do walking tours in Chinatown. We're going to Patriots Hall of Fame. We're going to the Hancock Clark House. These are just typical. And last month we were in Quebec for a month. These are typical of what we do. And what I think you will find surprising, if you can't find a friend to go with, just come with us. Because most of the time, whoever's on the bus, somebody. It's always so much fun, because people will just come by themselves and they'll say, oh my God, Jean, I haven't seen you in 20 years. And it's wonderful. So it's a great way. And then sometimes people find new friends. It's a great way to find new friends. So we constantly are telling you, come to us. We try and provide a little something for everyone. All right, next page. But probably our biggest programs are our exercise programs. People love to exercise in New England, and I think it's great. So we do a real aerobics class. I mean, you don't have to go to the gym, my friends. Stephanie and Priscilla will get you sweating. So we do a wonder workout, and yes, it is at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, but that's when they can do it. So that's when we're doing it. But for $3, you can come in and really get quite the exercise. Now, if you're a little bit older and your stability isn't as great, we do low impact exercise. And I'll tell you, Alex is great. You can do it in a chair. You can do it standing up. We have weights, and it helps you so much to keep your stability and to keep your strength and your muscle strength. We also do things like Pilates and yoga. And we do Tai Chi. So, a little something for everyone. As you can see on this page, we also do Shine, which Cheryl talked about. I will tell you, our Shine appointments fill up fast. So I always tell people, if you want to go to Shine, make sure you call us, because they do fill up fast. And once they're filled up, they're filled up. Our Shine counselor is amazing, but Cheryl knows that because she knows Mitch. He's fabulous. Now, someone asked earlier about long-term health insurance, and I thought that was really interesting because Hans Hug, I've worked with him for over 15 years. He is an expert, an absolute expert in long-term health insurance. So you bring your insurance policy, and honest to God, that man will help you figure out what you can and cannot do. It's not that he gets anything from this. He does it because it's his area of expertise, and he's willing to share his expertise the way you are, Maria, when you come and do legal. He does it for long-term health insurance. So if you're interested in either getting long-term health insurance, or if you have one, sign up and you want to find out more about your benefits, sign up for this class because he will help you. If you go up a little bit, as you can see, we also have some special programs, like we're doing scrapes, bruises, and burns, basic wound care. Again, we partnered with Beth Israel Leahy and their urgent care, and we're going to be doing what we call lunch and learn. So you can also, we provide a sandwich and a bottle of water, and you can learn how you can take care of basic wound and skin care. We do a lot of these programs. So these are some of our special programs that people should really want to do. Again, though, they do fill up. Most of these, I have to be honest with you, are sold out, but at least it gives you an idea of what we're doing. All right, next page. And if exercise isn't for you, well, we do watercolor. We do 5 different art classes. And Brenda's classes are sold out, but those are really big classes. We do a women's club, and they're really fun. And again, you go to it and then you'll suddenly see friends you haven't seen in years. We have chorus, we have book group. If you go down, you'll see that if you go down, we're also doing, for those of you who garden, we're doing a thing on succulents, and Susie is terrific, and she will teach you about succulents and how you can keep them alive in your house. All right, turn the page. Some of our special programs, we try and do a little bit for everybody. That's always my goal. So like, for instance, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Chronicles Ted Reinstein. Well, he's going to come and do, what's he doing? He's doing Before Brooklyn, the unsung heroes who helped break baseball's color barrier. And there are so many people who signed up for this, and I knew it was going to be big, that we're actually doing this at the library because they have bigger space than us. As you can see, we did Getting Your Legal Responsibilities Order with the Mass Bar Association, but that's already happened. If you go down, you'll see everybody should know, stop. We do a consumer guide to cemetery and funeral services. Tom is a great guy. Again, he's not selling anything. He's not a funeral director. He's nothing. He's just an expert in this field. And he will give you an understanding of what you need to do. And everybody should make a decision and know what they're going to do. Again, I'm Italian. We talk about death and dying all the time. I mean, honest to God, you can't have a dinner conversation at my house without somebody talking about it, because we have a huge family and something's always happening to someone. And it should be an open conversation. And this will help you understand how a guide for cemetery and funeral services. So again, we try and do a little bit of everything. We also have a workshop on poetry in case you want to do that. Or if you really want to start downsizing, we have one on decluttering. All right, next page. So one of our big groups is our hiking club. This is a group that hikes every Tuesday, and they hike. They go 2 to 3 miles, and they go all over Metro West. The 2 people who lead it our American Mountain Club, is that right? Certified, and so they know how to do it. They're first aid certified, and they're fantastic. But we also do current conversations. Susan Spetcher is amazing, and this conversation always stays very polite. People come from all sides of the political views, and we usually have about 20 people come, and they sit there and they talk. Of course, we also do things like bridge and knitting and crocheting, and then if you need waxing, we also do that. So there you go. We do a lot of intergenerational, and one of them is we do movies. This is a high school student who brings in a movie and does a really great job giving some background. Actually the date on this changed, but he's doing the Maltese Falcon, and he's doing it in October. So that's good. All right, next page.
So nice.
Oh yeah, we do a lot, right? So, and if you're not sure about what you're doing each day, we in our newsletter, this is September, and then we have October. We keep a very good calendar, and all of this, it's not just in Westwood and all the towns, it's on the website. So you go to the town, the town, let's say you go to Dedham, you go to the Dedham town or Westwood or wherever, and you can go to Council on Aging, and our calendars are all there. And it gives you sort of an idea of what we're doing every single day. All right, next page. Next page, that's another calendar. Okay, so the other thing we're finding is people are trying to get rid of their stuff, but they're not sure if it's worth anything. So we're doing a sports memorabilia and an antiques toys with someone who's a specialist, and he'll give it for free, tell you, like, is this worth anything? Or, just donate it to Goodwill because it's really not worth anything. We partner with Norwood Theater. We do a lunch and theater program. The other thing that's huge is our cooking classes. People love our cooking classes. We partner with Powesset Farm. We do this every month. We just did it today. It was delicious. This is one of the few things I actually do because it's so much fun, and you can learn some really great techniques. If you go up a little, we partner with Charlie's Angels Pet Initiative, because we're all dog obsessed in my office. And if you go up a little bit, you'll see we're also starting Italian. We're going to learn Italian. It's sold out in 10 minutes. We have a wait list of 12 people, so we're going to do it again in the fall and the winter. But people want to, this is a great way to keep your brain going. A lot of what we do is to also stimulate you. If you're just sitting there, you're cognitively going to not be able to continue. But if you keep challenging yourself, you'll age well. Okay, next page. And then I'll be quiet. Maria and Cheryl and Ted, TJ, no, I can talk forever. We do a dinner club. And I have to tell you, if people come by themselves to the dinner club, you don't have to have a friend. If you have a friend, great. But if you don't have to, every other month we do it at a local restaurant. We do a dinner club. Yes, it's $60 per person, but that includes a glass of wine or a beer, tip, gratuities, tax, the whole 9 yards. And if you go out to eat, that's a good deal. And in October, we're going to Olivati's, which is supposed to be delicious. So if you're interested, make sure you sign up. We partner with the Westwood Library, and the public library, and we do homebound deliveries for any senior. So if you know of a senior who can't get to the library, have them call us. We can have books delivered to them. And I'll tell you, this partnership is growing. They do DVDs, and Karen Gallagher, who's the person who runs it at the library, she's fabulous, and she'll get to know what you like. And she's really great at suggesting you on what's going on. Another, if you go down, we are partnering with Youth and Family Services, and we're doing if you like to write letters, my favorite story is we have to teach high school kids how to address an envelope, because none of them have a clue how to address an envelope because they do everything online. But we actually do our letter writing, and the high school students and the seniors write back and forth, and then we do an ice cream social at the end. And it has been fantastic. We have so many kids and so many seniors who are doing this. But if you're interested, you can sign up and do it. And finally, soup's on. We're doing a soup that's sold out too, but that's okay. Next Friday. And that is, we're going to teach you how to make some soups. The final page, of course, we always have parties. Maria has been to my parties. TJ has been to my show. You'll have to come to some of my parties. We're doing a Halloween luncheon. It's sponsored by Fox Hill Village. And that is really fun. It sells out in the first 10 minutes, but people really enjoy it. We have a good time. We do a party every month because it's all about parties, right? And it's all about getting out and being connected. So please, no matter who you are, what you're doing, if you're retired, come join us. Don't say you're too young, because these are fun things, and there's something for everyone at every Council on Aging. Okay, that's my spiel, Maria.
Nice job, Lena. I'm exhausted just looking at that, all those things. I think first of all, you and your staff are so warm and friendly and inviting to people who come in, and that really makes people want to come back, first of all, and also makes them comfortable with all of you, so that when they have an issue where they need help, they're perfectly comfortable asking for help, which I think is a great thing. You know, they start out, you know, enjoying your activities, but they know that you're also there for them if they need help with something.
Absolutely. And we really are there. And if we can't help you, particularly if you have a question that we don't have an answer, and sometimes that happens, we've got Cheryl we call, we've got TJ we call, we got Maria who we call. You know, we're pretty fearless at finding an answer for you.
Yes.
Sometimes we can't, but most of the times we can find an answer for you, or at least direct you on where you can find an answer. So, you know, we're the World Wide Web in a little tiny little office.
If someone wants to come to a program and can't drive, Lena, you have transportation back and forth to the senior center?
Absolutely. Yep. We'll take you to the center, but we do ask that you call 2 days in advance, because again, we have to make sure, and medical appointments always take priority. Medical and grocery shopping is the priority always. You know, you cannot be food insecure in my life. But if we have the ability, oh yeah, we have a lot of people who come to bingo, don't drive. So we have a big group of people who we pick up every Thursday afternoon to go to bingo. However, if there's a medical, then we have to work around that. But we have 3 vans and 3 van drivers. They're going round and round in circles every day, all the time.
Yeah, I see them driving around.
I know, and they're wonderful. They're really good guys. So
yeah. If people don't live in Westwood, can they still come to the Westwood Senior Center?
I don't care where you live. I don't care how old you are. Well, no teenagers. I mean, I have kids, so it's not like I don't love kids. I love kids, but everyone's laughing. Cheryl has kids. TJ has kids. I've got kids. Maria, you have kids. We don't want kids. We don't want kids there. But no, I never ask anybody where they're from or how much they make or how old they are. You do need to fill out what we call a swipe card, because when I do my grant writing, I need to know how many people have come in and out. We also get something called a formula grant from the state, which helps underwrite a lot of what we do. And so we have to prove to them that we indeed have people using our facility. And so the swipe card helps us prove that. Aside from that, I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. We're very open.
Well, that's great. We have a couple of questions. So first one is, I live in Canton. Can I come to the Westwood Senior Center?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
We'd love to see you. Come join us anytime.
Okay. And the other one was just a thank you. Great presentation. Thank you so much. So thank you for saying that. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
everyone. Any other questions? Put them in the chat. I don't want to take advantage of our presenters, but thank you. You guys have given us a wealth of information about local resources, and I know that all of us will need one of you at least at some point in our lives. So it's really great to know you're out there. Anybody have any questions or thoughts before
Well,
we
thank
go?
you for doing this. I think this was really great. I just wish more people would know what we do, know what Cheryl
Yeah.
does, know what
Right.
TJ does, know what you do, Maria, know what I do.
So
I just
so
wish more people
our
knew.
attendees out there, you're tasked with sharing this information with your friends. And like I said, this webinar was recorded, so it will be posted on our website, and you can send your friends to the website to watch it again at their leisure. Watch it with them, you know, if you want. There was a lot of information here. So yeah, we'll get the word out as best we can, for sure. So thank you all. Oh, I got one more comment. Let's see. Oh, just another thank you. So that's good. Thank you for saying thank you, everyone. And I say thank you to all of you too. It was very nice hearing all of you speak and meeting you all. And I hope we cross paths sometime soon.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. Look for our next webinar in January, probably. Okay, take care. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye, Maria. Bye, TJ. Bye, Cheryl.
Bye.
Bye.